Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It with SABIA KHATUN. Today we will be talking about International Women's Day 2022, and it's all about what we can break and how we can break the bias, what real changes can we make, and also the women's success and raising awareness against the biases. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. I'd like to introduce you all to today my champions of change, I'd like to call them. So I have with me joining at the studio Severine. Can I pronounce that again?
That's all right. Desrosiers.
Desrosiers, and she is an author. So welcome to the show, Severine.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. I also have with me joining from Qatar, Rania Sawalhi, who's an educational leader, and she's based in Qatar. So welcome, Rania.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Vivienne Porritt, OBE, Global Strategic Lead. She's in UK. So welcome, Vivienne, to my show.
Hello. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to join you.
Thank you. And Humera Qutb, who is a clinical psychiatrist from Pakistan. Welcome, Humera.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
And last but not least, Esther Mustamo-Daniels. She's a diversity lead and she's based in Oman. So hello there, Esther.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, it's all about, Severine, what can I say? It's about well-being and the aims of improving what we as women can lead. But before I ask you, can I ask Vivienne to actually say a little bit, very briefly, about what is this International Women's Day, and maybe you can touch upon this year's theme of how can we break the bias. So over to Vivienne.
Certainly, thank you. International Women's Day is a day to enable all women to really think very carefully and closely about how they can move forward in their careers, in their personal life, in supporting others. It's a global day to say that women are here. We're not going anywhere else. We're not a minority. We are here and we want to be able to have a fair, gender, equitable life. And I think that's the same for all women across the globe.
Everyone over to Rania, actually. Rania, your background suggests a lot of work that you do with women. How do you see your journey in supporting other women around the spaces and the places that you are with?
Thank you again for raising this question and allowing us to share some of the insights from our journey. It's really interesting because providing or trying to provide example for ladies to do their best according to their choice or according to their own context. So we don't have one copy that we want to paste in different places. We just need to provide different opportunities and to show that we are able to doing this, regardless of the obstacles that we're facing or the challenges. So the way that I'm trying to do myself is to help myself first and others to reevaluate the resources and see different opportunities and different ways just to select the best choice that they would like to see themselves in.
Okay, so Humera, you've been listening to what Rania has just mentioned, but where you are in Pakistan, in the modern day world where we say that we are equal to men, how much does our culture in this developing country appreciates and accepts thoughts and ideas?
Thank you for asking me this important question. So here is the thing. With passage of time, the perception has significantly changed. People, they do understand and recognize that women, they are equal, equal opportunities should be given to them. They need to explore some more roles and professions where they can experiment and they can come up with their full potentials. But having said so, each culture has its own limitations and certain obstacles. And the culture from which I belong, despite of the fact that there are a lot of people and their families who do support, there are certain cultural limitations as well, where women coming from certain family backgrounds and belonging from certain societies, they are not encouraged and sometimes they're deprived from opportunities as well. So on one hand, we do get certain opportunities to excel and grow and equally participate, but at the same time, there are limitations. We do, and deal with a lot of challenges. But I'm certain and I'm hope that with passage of time, this perception and these challenges will, they
Sure.
will improve with passage of time.
Yeah. If I can take everyone over to Severine here, who is an author of a book. Can you share some of the barriers maybe you have had to overcome? I mean, if you want to tell us a little bit about the book that you have. I mean, the title, I know I have seen it. The Path to Resilience, I think, says it all.
Yes.
So tell us about any barriers that you as a woman had to face, in your journey.
Well, lots, especially like we're minorities. You've got the unconscious bias that comes into play. The expectation, I suppose, that you're not capable of doing something, you're not able to do anywhere near as much as a man can. And throughout the book, The Path to Resilience, I do like not only tell the reader, but show them that like anybody can do what they want to do. There are times where I had to take opportunities. So I always think there are sometimes, instead of like waiting for that seat at the table, when they just seem like they don't have any more chairs, you build your own tables. So I created the opportunities if they weren't there, and in hopes that will at least like create a path for other women afterwards.
Brilliant. Esther, if I can go to you, are women able to reach for support where you are? And how do you suggest biases can be broken?
There are areas and a lot of support networks for women where I am in Oman, but there is still the reality that it's quite a patriarchal society. So speaking to young women about the barriers that they can break and the barriers that they want to break. Primarily, I think everybody has their part to play, but particularly looking at young children and in the classroom and in the schools, the images that we share and the people that we lift up along the way. So all of these play a part in how we can break the bias, but particularly in the classroom and showing young children and older different images and different paths that they can take, and showing them the representation that's out there is so empowering. But as we do that, we lift each other up and we make sure that we are showing what we can do and examples of what we have done as well in lots and lots of different areas.
I'm actually trying to figure out, there's a title that Vivienne mentioned, and I know various other women may be involved in it. But I want to ask the question to Vivienne about Women Ed. Can you give us a little insight about that?
Yes, and as can Rania and Esther, because we're all part of the global network that is Women Ed. We tackle the barriers and the bias in education, because sadly, in a profession that is supposed to be about supporting people and equity and justice, women leaders in education across the globe are treated inequitably and badly. And this has come a shock to all of us, because we all thought education was a really fabulous set of ethics and concepts. but it's not. So we've learned in Women Ed that women leaders in schools across the world are not able to become head teachers or principals of schools in the same proportion as men, according to the workforce. There are significant gender pay gaps. There are particular problems and difficulties for women of colour or women with a disability, for example, who are not able to be represented as leaders even within their own school communities. And we want to be able to break these barriers down. And we've been working for 6.5 years to do that. And we think so far that we're having a significant impact.
Okay, yeah. I think Severine was saying something about gender pay gap as well. There's something that, you know, you would want to add on. So could you share that with us?
Yes. So as a woman, especially that works in finance, there all across all industries, there's the pay gap. But I would say, like, maybe one of the ways to try to close that, and it's not going to happen overnight, would be to involve more women already in the recruitment process. And then, as was mentioned earlier, you also have like difficulties with women getting into higher positions, I would say. But the difference for me between like a man being able to do it and a woman is the opportunity. So create the opportunities. And I think that they can do just as well as a man can do.
Yeah, I think we haven't really moved much,
there's resistance,
you know, with that issue. One other point I'd like to raise towards Rania actually is, with this Women Ed, how do you see young girls improve their self-confidence and leadership skills in the kind of work and things that you have to offer with Women Ed?
I met Vivienne in 2019 at Belma's conference, and it was a great opportunity to discuss some of the ideas and to see their work in action, especially that I'm specialized in education leadership and teacher leadership in specific. When I started, you know, the idea of education leadership might be, we just think about school settings or formal or informal education. But the way that I'm trying to is to focus on motherhood as part of education leadership. That's a new aspect, a new idea of seeing the role of the mothers, how they're educating and how they're helping the nations. And the same vein, the same idea that also the young girls and the students, my children, my youngest child, she saw me that I'm volunteering with the Women Ed, and she started asking me, and what are you doing, Mama? You know, what kind of things that is happening? So interestingly, that she's leading this within her school. So it's not only about talking, it's about implementing and having those words into action. So she started thinking about being 10% braver, which is we're encouraging within Women Ed. So she says that if I'm 10% braver, that means 100%. So it's just about continuously, or the consistent work that we're doing and trying to help others. So this is how you start building kind of role modeling, mentoring, helping. It's not only by words, but also with the actions directly and indirectly.
And Esther, what's the situation like in Oman with similar ways of supporting and encouraging young girls to become, you know, tomorrow's leaders?
It's exactly the same as Vivienne and Rania have stated. So Women Ed has been absolutely amazing in terms of the work that they're doing to support this, just in terms of guidance, advice, and a network. And I think that's what's really strong and empowering about the work that's being done, because there's examples all over. And just as Rania said, it starts on all levels. So while we work in the classroom to give examples, it is taking that into action and how we can support other women in different fields, whether it's teachers, and as I said, examples of that moving forward. And there's a lot of great things happening within Oman, and we bring that to the children. So, for example, we have female airline pilots, female hikers, etc., who will come in and speak to the children as examples and role models, And then we have teachers in the school as well that work with the children and then take that outside into the community. So there's lots of work going on.
Yeah, yeah. The other challenges, I mean, there are always challenges, Severine, aren't there? I mean, for yourself, what would you say some of the most significant challenges that can occur and that may change of the way we would need to break a bias?
Some of the challenges, what we had mentioned it earlier, even the ladies had mentioned that, I would say resistance and stuff. So you would have to break that little by little.
This thing, I mean, Vivienne, to have resistance, that's quite deep. Yeah. The barriers which are starting from within, you know, can you say something about that, Vivienne, as well?
Yes, I think in Women Ed at the moment, we use the word disruption, which I think probably has exactly the same concept, but we're saying we've got to disrupt our own biases because people have made us feel that we're not as capable as men at times, or that we have to be quiet and more gentle, all those gendered stereotypes that we need to disrupt within our own thinking, and then disrupt all the processes that hold women back. As we were talking about recruitment earlier, there's also the motherhood aspect, as Rania was picking it in, as was introducing there. And we talk in Women Ed about working with individual women, working with the organisations that employ them, and then also these systemic issues of bias. And we're tackling all three. And if we have to do it one individual woman at a time, we'll do it in that way until we can see, till our young people can see women as leaders in their schools.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel that Women Ed is relevant? You know, are there any other platforms there for, you know, not only young people, but women of all diverse, you know, backgrounds? Are there other platforms that women can reach out to, you know, to help break some of these biases?
I think lots of different industries have lots of their own networks within it in that way. And we work within education because we think that's fundamental to changing the future for our own girls, so that students now, when they go out into the workforce, can go out being confident in themselves as leaders in whatever industry or sector they move into. And unless we tackle that in education, we're always going to have the lack of women leaders in schools, in universities, holding our girls back. So we see the work we're doing in education as absolutely fundamental to support the future for all women.
And Humera, as a clinical psychiatrist based in Pakistan, I can only imagine the strong cultural, you know, political, economical, you know, situations which can come as like a block, as a barrier. Could you share a few things that you've observed around in that country, and maybe, you know, part of your journey, you know, with that?
Yeah. So basically, as we know that we belong from a patriarchal society where we are convinced, or we are made to believe, that only men are capable of bringing change, or only they can excel in whatever they do. However, it's extremely important and crucial to make our women, our girls, understand and realize that they are capable of doing a lot of things. So from my clinical practice, I have seen significant change happening, but at the same time, it's a long way to go. There are families, no matter how educated they are, they're still resistant to change. They're not really sure of experimenting different professions. They're not really sure of giving enough freedom to their women or their girls, because they believe that by giving freedom, maybe the girl, you know, she won't be able to protect herself, or she won't be able to raise a good, happy, healthy, or ethical, socially strong family. So these are some of the cultures. These are some of the challenges which I have seen in my society. So it's a long way to go. It's a long way to go in a sense that people are resistant and they're not willing to change their perception. But let's see how much time it will take.
Severine, I mean, I'd like to say this to you, but also I'd like all the other ladies to say something about this. We are almost coming to the end of our show as well, unfortunately. So what do you suggest real changes? What real changes can we bring on to help us to have a sustainable tomorrow? Especially, as time is going by, it feels like it's slowed down. Yeah. And I suppose the pandemic hasn't helped with a lot of things. People may have stayed indoors, have more thoughts and, time to themselves. So what do you suggest some of the real changes that can be made for a sustainable tomorrow?
Well, something like this already, what we're doing now, like raising awareness, talking about it, I would say is like a really good start. And then having different support systems for women, different places that they can go to, and just try to kind of build up their confidence to go out there. So an example, one of the things that we're doing at work, for say, we've seen that like men will apply to jobs when they usually only qualify for about 20% of it. And women, if they don't qualify for like 95%, they won't apply. So downright to changing the wording of how you would do like a job description would even attract already more women into that kind of field, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. And then if I can ask Rania as well to address the same issue here, what real changes do you suggest be made to break the bias?
I would highly recommend to start from the women themselves. How do they see their role? Others might focus on imposter syndrome or on tall poppies, regardless of the names. But we need to reflect and to see how we even allow ourselves to break what we think sometimes that is not right for us. The second thing is regarding redefining leadership. And it's not only about power and authority, it's more about circle of influence and how we can lead from where we stand. So sometimes we just need to clarify the terms that we are using and simplify it for others so that they can proceed and they can take actions within the context that they're having. Sharing success stories, that this is something really important, because sometimes we think that there's only one model. It's not. And we need even to discuss the failure, because that would encourage us more, because this is the normal practice, as in this is a healthy practice that we learn from.
Thank you for that. And Esther as well, in Oman, what kind of real changes do you suggest take place to make a sustainable tomorrow?
Pretty similar to the ladies before, but I think what's important is to set examples within ourselves and for others. In everything that we do. So the 10% braver motto is just fantastic to push yourself out of your own comfort zone and think about your own internal, potential biases that you may have, and to not shrink yourself for others. So that's something I see a lot with young people and people also in the profession, that they will not speak up or apologize for something that they shouldn't be apologizing for. So not shrinking yourself to make others feel more comfortable, challenging structures as well if you're not happy, and looking at ways that can be challenged, and primarily it's supporting, encouraging and championing each other. And that network and that support is so empowering for us all. So we need to continue to do that.
Brilliant. And Humera, in Pakistan, what kind of real changes do you think are realistically, can actually happen and take place?
So first thing first, we need to start believing in ourselves. Yeah. And then in addition to it, we need to uplift women around us. Only then we can bring a good positive change. In addition to it, we need to psychoeducate our future generation, giving them this confidence that they are the ones who make this world a colorful and a beautiful place. So how about we take more chances and we uplift others, we give confidence to others, only then we can bring a good, significant and a positive change.
Brilliant. And last but not least, I think we have Vivienne left. If you could summarize this gender, inequality that's happening, and again, what real changes do you think you could suggest?
What I thought was wonderful about what we've just heard is we're all saying the same things. And we may use different words or different phrases, but we are all saying that women need to step up and be their own role models and role models for others. We need to believe in ourselves, which is what 10% Braver, as our mantra, is all about. We can do things, we do things. And I firmly believe that being a woman means we've already got our own superpower already hidden within inside of us. We just have to let it out. And if we let our superpowers out in collaboration with other women, then we really can shift the dial on the bias that is there within all of our cultural systems. And we can all do it together.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Severine, and thank you all ladies for joining me today. I know we can actually go on to talk a lot more about how we can bring about change, how we can suggest. But I think the main thing is, Severine, is action, taking the action. But what I want to say is thank you for your valuable time. I know we've had people joining from Qatar, Oman, and Pakistan. Our time differences are just horrendous. But I do hope that, you all will go away and do your part in making the difference and suggesting. So once again, thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, people, viewers out there, let's not just focus on this one day of saying, let's celebrate Women's Day. Let's embrace it every day. And what we have understood and received an insight is, yes, we're all saying the same things. Believe in yourself. And if you believe, I want to say a quote, and I want to leave everyone with a quote, is that if you believe, then you can move the highest mountains. And with that, I will leave you all and hope you all have a lovely evening. This is SABIA KHATUN for VodTalk.